Last week, I made this hand plane, and I needed a plane adjusting mallet. So I made this one out of the scraps. Stick around and I'll show you how I made it. To get started with the brass mallet, I began collecting some materials. I'd remembered that I had cut off a piece of walnut from the same board that I had made the plane from. In addition to the walnut, I found the 3/4 inch brass rod that I had made the strike button from, and a piece of hard maple for the tightening wedges. I think it'll make a nice contrast to the walnut. After I collected the materials, it was then time to come up with a good design. So I think that this piece of walnut is going to be pretty good. I'm kind of holding it in my hand to kind of figure out about how long the hammer needs to be, and this is about 8 inches. So the first thing I am going to do is to trace out this so that I have a reference point as to how big I can make the handle. To get started, I looked through some images of some brass hammers, and I found this chasing hammer that I really liked the design of the handle. So I thought I'd use that as an inspiration to get started. Now that we have our design done, we can get started on the brass head. To get the hole for the handle perfectly centered in the head, I made a small jig out of some hard maple to hold the brass rod firmly while drilling. And now that I have my little jig made, I can put my brass pin in here, like so. It fits very tight, and when I compress it on the drill press vise, then that pin should stay in place. So what I need to do now is to locate where to drill the holes in the center here. The center of my block, it's 2.5, so the center is 1.25, and I want the top of the handle to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'll drill a series of 5/16" holes across here, being these to the outside limits. And then those holes will go through the center of my brass rod. To finish the hole, I filed the sides straight. I'm filing the slot in the top a little larger so that after I insert the handle and the wedge, it'll have room to expand. Well, now that I've got the brass head all made, I can turn my attention to shaping the wooden handle. I copied the drawing on some heavy cardstock for a template. I began by smoothing down the sides of the blank to make it easier to lay out my design. And after finding the center, I simply took these templates and laid them out on here. I'm using a white pencil so that it's easier to see on this dark walnut. I began by shaping the handle tendon for the mallet head. I had this piece of brass tubing, so I thought that would be a nice detail to put through this lanyard hole. So now I'll just take a mill file and clean that up. So to mount the head on the handle, I first mixed up some epoxy and I put a little bit of walnut dust in there just to give it a little bit of color. I put the epoxy on the inside of the head instead of on the handle so that when I pushed it on there, all of the squeeze out would come out the top. After the epoxy had cured, I then trimmed it off with a small saw and finally finished it off with a file. Well, I'm really happy with the way that it came out. It really is a nice weight. It feels very good in my hand. I particularly like the way the handle fattens down at the bottom. You can really grip it nicely. So the way that this hammer works is that if you would like the iron to protrude more out the bottom, you would tap the iron like so. And if you wanted the blade to retract more, you would then hit the strike button like so. I'll explain more about how to do that in depth in the next episode on backing out planks. In the past, before our shelter and stay situation that we're in right now, I had a lot of subscribers and viewers that would stop by for a visit and or to lend a hand. Now you can't stop by and visit right now, but there are 3 things that you can easily do to lend a hand. First, hit that like button. Second, subscribe. And third, leave a comment. So stay safe out there. And the next episode, we'll be getting back on the boat and working on the planking. So in the meantime, thanks for watching, and remember, if you're going to make it beautiful.